Hey, what's happening, everyone? Pragmatic Addict here. Alright, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I was not expecting to review the new Minions movie on my 31st birthday. In fact, wasn't expecting to see this film at all. Actually had a screener for this film some time ago, and I completely ignored it. Which, man, I gotta break away from the script here. Just hearing those first things that I've said really hurts because I fucking liked this movie. But going back to the script here, I will admit, I didn't hate the ones that I've seen, at least not Despicable Me 4. I thought that one was okay. I saw that one, and I saw the first Minions movie, like the first actual Minions. I can't remember what I thought about that one, but still, not a fan of this franchise. In fact, both of those two films I was kind of dragged to. Wasn't at all expecting to see this movie, but then it occurred to me, nothing else is out this weekend. And you know what? Could be worse, even for a Minions movie. This is a solid 90 minutes. It's actually a prequel to the whole franchise, so I don't need to worry about not seeing every other, sixth movie. It's maybe the most interesting story in the franchise for me, which is both a monster movie and a movie about these guys trying to make a monster movie. Also, highest rated film for this studio yet. Minions and Monsters it is. And I've just seen the film. I can't say let's see what I felt about it. You guys already know how I feel about it, but let's dive into what I actually got out of it. After accidentally becoming silent film stars but losing their careers to talkies, James, Henry, and Ed attempt to make their own monster movie, inadvertently unleashing real globe-threatening creatures that they must band together to defeat. So right away, with this film being centered on film in the 20s, which I was looking forward to the most in this movie, going back to, again, how I said that this may very well be the most interesting story of the franchise to me. How they blend this with the Minions property when the film is first beginning, just teasing that. I always enjoy when movies, particularly animated family films, make those callbacks that not only people but older generations especially will have a lot of fun with, that kids may not quite see the whole hype around. Especially in this film's case, being a Minions movie in 2026 centering on the history of all things cinema. Kids of today are definitely not gonna see the real fun with that, which actually, just saying that makes me realize how ballsy this film is. Literally being a Minions movie in 2026 for today's generation of kids, centering on the whole history of all things cinema. But when the actual film starts, it doesn't immediately take place in the 20s. It actually takes place in modern day at a movie museum, which does have all kinds of references to actual movies that we all know and love. And in the museum is a statue of three Minions that no one in this museum group has heard of, which now seeing the movie, I don't quite get. I mean, obviously it is 2026 when this part takes place, and this is over 100 years ago when these Twinkies were really relevant. But following the ending of the movie, I still feel like people would know these dudes. I mean, they're in the fucking movie museum, and it's not just the kids out of this group that doesn't recognize these guys. It's everybody. Anyway, it starts with this group at this museum. Nobody knows who the Minions are, and this guide is just flabbergasted by this, obviously. Thus, she tells the story that we get for the rest of the film, and that's how the main story starts. And I gotta say, immediately, seeing fictional origins to just things in general that we actually know and have in our real lives while getting these Minions origins, the humor as well as this being an animated Minions movie, I enjoyed that just fine. And the Minions in general in this movie, I didn't find them unlikable at all from the get-go and throughout the movie. I don't know, maybe it's just because whenever I think of Minions, I just think of them just saying the word banana, and I don't know, the humor and story of these Minions in this movie was just better than that. And just the story in general with this film, its setting, its main topics, just immediately and throughout just kind of being chocked full of classic Hollywood movie references, immediately seeing these Minions' journey in this setting, seeing them sailing across sea, then meeting a wizard. I just enjoyed all of the love letters with, again, the humor. And touching more on both the humor and references to classic Hollywood pictures, another thing I've always loved in family animated films is when the humor catches me off guard, especially as I get older. There are things in here that, and pretty early on, just really caught me off guard that were much more surprising than I've seen in a kid's film recently. But this film really is just all about film, the history, the evolution, the industry, just with Minions. I was actually really surprised at how much the movie was just that. Especially the setup for this film, which has the most non-stop callbacks to Hollywood movies. This went on for a lot longer than I expected as far as just setup. And I had a really fun scenario with it, which is, what if the Minions were around during this time and had stumbled upon, well, the pictures? And you get that, and yeah, it's action-packed, it's kind of a roller coaster, it's wacky, and as far as going on for a lot longer than I expected, I did eventually get to a point where I was like, okay, how long is this setup gonna go on for? Because it doesn't feel so much like an actual story anymore, more than just, well, like Looney Tunes kind of nonsense with a bunch of cinema references. And which I also absolutely love when this happens in a movie. Right then and there, when I had that thought, it concluded, it wrapped up. Perfect timing. And once the setup wraps up and we're just sitting with and seeing this 2026 big animated studio movie setting, which is 1920s LA, I was just kind of drawn into it. And touching more on this being a big studio animated movie from 2026, tackling all this history with this setting, I also enjoyed all the surprises and the variety as far as animation throughout this film. And going back to how I said that this tackles everything in cinema, including the industry and how I actually liked these Minion characters, a big part of their journey is them actually wanting to be successful storytellers. That personal journey, along with them actually discovering cinema when it became cinema, it's just weirdly enough an unexpectedly fun and unique film that I think cinephiles and people wanting to realistically get into the industry can have a lot of harmless fun with as well. And this goes even deeper into centering on once these Minions have actually made it in Hollywood. What if the industry just decides out of nowhere that they don't want these guys anymore? And this being everything they've wanted, finally achieved, just ending on a whim with regardless of how they feel. And for a 90-minute movie, I was surprised at how much build-up and how much time the film actually took to really dig into everything, to every aspect. Kind of going back to what I was saying with how the setup just really surprised me with its length. It's not at all quick or soon when you see, for example, the Minions making this monster movie, which I think with that thought, also this literally being the movie's title, people may be the most excited to see that in this film, and I think that that may ultimately disappoint some people. Though, just to reiterate, this is coming from someone who has never given a fuck about the Minions and has actually kind of tried to avoid them as long as I've known them. Before we get any of this aspect, I still enjoyed the film quite fine consistently. What I'm getting at is, if you already love the Minions, you should still have a blast with this film even before it gets to that big aspect. Which, speaking of, when that aspect does come in, I liked how much bigger the world story of the film got, one side being these three Minions that decide to make a monster movie to work their way back into the spotlight, and the other rest of them just accepting it didn't work out and being on their own journey trying to find a purpose, a leader, and how equally fun and vastly different the characters that each side meets along the way are. The three Minions meeting their first monster, which is actually voiced by Trey Parker. I loved his voice acting, writing, also bonus, Trey fucking Parker. And it's the fun mystery and buildup of each character that we meet along the way in these two storylines. Just wondering what other monsters we'll meet are, and the leader that the other Minions end up finding. Just questions regarding their background and just the absolute unpredictability of where each storyline will go. And as far as the finale in this movie, going back to me just praising the animation, this is maybe the standout for that. As the type of film this is, being centered around all things cinema, being a love letter to everything cinema, being a monster movie in this time, this being, again, the finale, and a movie as chaotic as the Minions from, again, a big animation studio in 2026. And just as far as the conclusion to this entire thing, it's a great ending along with the credits. I think for this prequel, this specific movie, for the fans, the credits were just as great too. I am absolutely giving Minions and Monsters a positive review. Maybe biggest surprise of the year for me. I absolutely recommend you guys go and see this one. It's a great family film. It's a great surprise. It's great for all ages, all generations, all types of film lovers. Definitely go out and see Minions and Monsters. With all that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video very soon. Take care.